The paper is entitled Al-Masiri's Framework in Understanding and Examining the Jewish Communities. The Jews in general, or the Jewish communities, are often looked at as either genius or eternal evil conspiring, against the whole world. So this is what is in the collective unconsciousness of most of the people around the globe. Al-Masiri, however, argues against all these narratives and call these narratives reductionist, simplistic, and therefore, he suggested a more comprehensive framework or paradigm that can really thoroughly go deeper into understanding the Jews and the Jewish communities. Yeah, he did that thoroughly, when he wrote his brilliant encyclopedia about the Jews, and therefore we will look into the frameworks he suggested that can help not only understand only the Jewish communities, the social, economic, and political, and most importantly, the epistemological underpinnings of the Jews or the Jewish communities. But also, he believed that these frameworks can be used and can be applied to other human phenomena as well. Yeah. So who is Al-Masiri? Al-Masiri, as you can see, was born in 1938 in Egypt, and he studied English literature in Alexandria in 1955 and obtained an MA in 1964 at Columbia University, US. And in 1969, he earned his PhD at Rutgers University in the US as well. Al-Masiri's major works, of course, his encyclopedia of the Jew, Judaism and Zionism, a new interpretive paradigm. You see, he called it interpretive paradigm. So these are the paradigms that we are going to go through and see how he used the paradigms into the study of the Jewish communities around the world. Yeah, this is his autobiography, entitled My Intellectual Journey, which is one of the most important, of course, works. And you have partial and comprehensive secularism. Very interesting, this book. The problematic of bias and epistemological view and call for jihad. Okay, these are the major words. So, what is Masiri's theoretical framework that he claims is comprehensive, generic in nature, that can really be applied not only, as we said, to the Jewish communities, but also to all socio-economic, political, as well as epistemological underpinnings of, any phenomenon, including, of course, the Jewish communities. So he came up with what is known, or what he coined as namudaj. Namudaj literally in English means a paradigm. Namudaj is an Arabic word that means a paradigm, a framework. For him, any human socio-economic, political phenomena cannot be really grasped and thoroughly understood unless we have a paradigm in place that is generic in nature, that is more comprehensive, that goes beyond the simplistic way of understanding things around us, things as well as social realities. So for him, Masiri claims that the Jewish communities and the Jews that we see today is a byproduct of Western worldview, of Western societies. So this is what we're going to look into. This is Al-Masiri's claim that in order to understand the Jews, you have to look at the Jews at a bigger picture, as minority groups that have lived throughout history in different majority societies, and that the Jews that we see today are by far, a product of the Western modernity, and therefore, ideals like Zionism, Darwinism, colonialism, and all these stuff, have been passed down by the Western societies to the Jews that were living there. They imbibed it, they internalize it, living in such societies. So these are the frameworks suggested by the Masiri to study not only the Jewish communities, as we said, even though here it is meant to study the Jewish communities, but can be also applied to other phenomena, as we said. So these frameworks are in Arabic, Al-Hululiyya al-Kamuniyya, which is in English Eminent Monistic Pantheism, and you have Al-Jama'a al-Wadhifiyya and Al-Almaniyya al-Shamila. Al-Almaniyya al-Shamila or Al-Almaniyya al-Shamila is comprehensive secularism and functional groups. So these are the three frameworks, eminent monistic pantheism, number one, al-jama'at al-wadhifiyya, and al-almaniyya al-shamila. So let's start with eminent monistic pantheistic. So this view revolves around three elements: God, man, and nature. So the Hululi or pantheistic view, worldview, or framework, as Masiri call it, a paradigm, for Al-Masiri is a framework that is meant to look at the world, these three elements as ensuing from one essence. So this for Al-Masiri is a framework of how we look at the world. And he wants to say that the Western view of looking at reality, including God and existence and all this stuff, is pantheistic, God, man, nature altogether, and therefore this view has been inherited by the Jews, that have lived throughout history in the Western society. So example of eminent monistic pantheistic is atheism. For example, atheism is an example of Hululi. Sufi metaphysic or unity of being is an example of eminent monistic pantheism, naturalism, materialism, theism, deism, material spiritualism. All these are Western ideals. Spiritualism, all these are Western ideas that came about with the Western modernity. And these are the very ideals that were imbibed by the Jews. Okay, Darwinism, Hegelianism, colonialism, all these are ideals that represent what he named eminent monistic pantheistic worldview. All these are manifestations of this view, and therefore, all these views, including Zionism, as he said, is a Western view, yeah, that has been passed down to the Jewish people. So for them, Zionism is an offshoot of colonialism and Darwinism, for example. So meaning that the Jews, occupying Palestine did not come out of the blue, but rather is based on a philosophy, on a worldview that is purely a Western worldview, that came with modernity. So the second framework, as we can see, Al-Maniyya Shamila. Al-Maniyya Shamila is also a framework, yeah. And this framework has epistemological, metaphysical, and ethical underpinnings. So epistemologically, it asks three major questions. What are the key sources of knowing? How can we be certain of what we know? As human beings, is there any limit of what we can know? So to answer this question, we have two, of course, we have different school of thought. That two major different, school of thought: rationalism and empiricism. As you can see, rationalism and empiricism. So these are Western source of knowing. Yeah, these are the sources of knowing in the West, either by rational thinking or by empirical data, based on senses and all this stuff. Metaphysically, Western philosophy is based on monism, pluralism, eminence, and atheism. Yeah. Yeah, and there are trends metaphysically. There are many trends such as agnosticism, naive realism, metaphysical idealism, etc., etc. Ethically, it involves, hedonism, eudaimonism, teleology, deontology, egoism, and altruism. All in all, so all these trends and schools are product of Western society, as we see, yeah. And therefore, Al-Masiri argued that, the Zionist view is purely a byproduct of colonialism, of materialism. I mean, not seeing any problem of exploiting the nature, and human is part of that nature, which is purely materialistic kind of worldview. So for him, and this is the third framework. The third framework, as you can see, as known as Al-Jama'at al-Wadhifiyya, of functional groups, are actually a framework that is describing, minority groups, working in, in majority societies, in these majority, and how they are treated. So Jews or Jewish communities, have lived throughout history in different places as minority communities, in majority societies. And therefore, the idea here is when you're a minority society, though you have subcultures, but you tend to be influenced by the bigger, the bigger host majority societies. And this is what really happened with the Jew communities, uh, you know, that have been living in the Western societies and ended up imbibing the ideals. So here at the conclusion, the Jewish communities, according to Al-Masiri, are influenced by Western modernity. Yeah, they have, the pantheistic view of the Jews, actually came from the Western modernity, and you know, secularist behavior that we see, materialist, all this behavior that we see in the Jews actually came from the West. Yeah. So, so in total, bottom line, Al-Masiri, wants to say the behavior that you see in Jews, the materialistic, the colonialist, the secularist, humanistic, tendency that you see in Jews, all these are a result of Western byproduct, which is Western modernity. Yeah. So we shouldn't be surprised, uh, you know, by the Zionist behavior that we see in the Jews today occupying Palestine. So for Masiri, if we, these three paradigms or frameworks are generic in nature. They can be applied in any in any human phenomenon, as well as even natural phenomenon, or social realities as well as other realities as well. It it these frameworks have this analytical power, be it epistemological, ethical, metaphysical. Yeah, he believes that in everything there are epistemological, metaphysical, and ethical underpinnings. And in order to understand these, we really need a very sophisticated kind of paradigm, which is suggested three paradigms. First is eminent monistic pantheism. The second is comprehensive secularism, and the third is functional groups. Thank you very much. Thank you for your attention.